We are less than 20 days from starting a new year. Good riddance to 2020 is being echoed across the planet. The new year is a good marker for folks to start anew, and you can do so with your finances. We're happy to welcome back Leslie Tayne, debt resolution attorney at the Tayne Law Group. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.
The last time we chatted, we were talking about not drowning ourselves in holiday debt. And now that we've come to just a few days before the Christmas holiday, we know that everybody who watched this didn't do that. So we're looking forward to a new year. Why is a new year a good time to start new habits?
So generally, a new year is always a great opportunity for a fresh start, and financial goals are usually at the top of those lists. So this year, though, more than ever, we want to say goodbye to 2020 and all of that, the experiences that we have, and really look at an opportunity for 2021 to refresh our finances and our goals.
So when people were getting stimulus checks, when they were getting certain loans because of COVID, those terms started to end just within the last couple of months. Are we seeing anything change come January?
So many of the programs through the CARES Act either have expired or are going to expire, depending on the program. On the mortgage foreclosure end, you had 180 days and you can request an additional extension of that. And that time frame is based on when you started that program. But the federal student loan piece is ending at the end of the year. And while there may be changes to that, there's nothing currently on the horizon right now. So you need to be prepared going into 2021 that if you took advantage of any of those opportunities through the CARES Act or other state or local programs, that there are expiration dates, and you need to relook at your budget now to determine how the changes are going to impact you financially going forward. Don't wait to the last minute or the expiration of the program, because you might find at that point in time that you have some challenges making the payments.
Absolutely. So what do you recommend people do? I mean, you can get on the phone with if we're talking about student loans, with your lender, but if there aren't any programs, how do you form some kind of a payment plan that works with your particular budget?
So in order to form a payment plan, and before you reach out to any creditor ever, you need to know what your financial ability is to make payments. So if you call up and you agree to something that you then can't pay, you're going to have more challenges and less credibility with your lender. So my recommendation is really take a look at your budget. So we're approaching the end of December, so your December budget should be completed by now, and you should be thinking about your January, February budgets. What's going to happen in January and February in terms of your income and expenses? And remember, you may have expenses that were unanticipated due to either weather issues, health issues, travel issues, or anything that's come up. So put together that budget now and determine what cash flow is available to make payments towards a particular debt, and then have a conversation with the creditor and say, I understand the program is ending. What other options will I have in my situation? Do I need to reapply to another program? Will I automatically be placed in a repayment? What are the options available to me and when?
And what do you need in order to do that? So you need to do your homework, know what your budget is, but then do you also have to get your paperwork together to then provide them with proof of what you're telling them?
So some creditors will require proof in mortgage modification or forbearance programs. You might be required by a lender. In certain student loan situations, it wasn't the case with the federal loans, but private student loans, which were not covered under the CARE Act, but might have had a program based on what the lender was willing to do, might require additional documentation. Mm-hmm. Certain programs within the federal student loans do require documentation. These are programs that are outside the CARES Act or outside the federal programs related to the pandemic. So you might want to ask the lender and the creditor at the same time that you're asking them what programs are available, ask them, what documentation would you need from me? Do you need W-2s? Do you need proof of unemployment? Sometimes they want bank statements, depending on the creditor. Unsecured creditors like credit card companies, if you're current, you generally shouldn't need to provide that information.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about some savings that you can put together and some other good habits to place for the beginning of 2021 so that you have an easier ride throughout the year. So we're going to do that in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. On this Money Monday, we've been chatting with Leslie Tayne of the Tayne Law Group. 2021, we're hoping, is going to be a much better year. You can certainly make it that way by managing your finances properly. So, Leslie, aside from doing your homework, making the phone calls that you need to be making before December 31st, what other things can people do to really set some boundaries, some financial boundaries that will only benefit them in the next year?
So the best way to set financial boundaries is to understand what it is that you need to do to meet your financial obligations. And what that requires is not only a good look at your budget, but a realistic conversation with your significant other and your family, because going into 2021 is still an amount of uncertainty in the upcoming parts of the year. And we're still trailing from the pandemic and when that's going to end and how it's going to impact all of us financially. So have a realistic conversation about what you're going to be able to do financially and otherwise, and what you're going to be able to spend on, and start thinking about items in your budget that are really unnecessary, that are items that you either don't use, don't have a lot of use for, or could live without.
Yeah, such as certain streaming platforms and other things that eat into you pay for them with a credit card. They get charged automatically every single month. You lose track of these things. It's crazy.
Subscriptions, for sure, you could easily lose track of. And I know that iTunes is another example of things that you could lose track of, because it doesn't specifically state what you're paying for. So you don't know if it's an app that you're using regularly or if it's music or another streaming service. It's a good idea to really take note of your credit card statements each month and then try to track down what the purpose of that charge is. And even though it's $1.99 or 99 cents or $9.99, those are small numbers in and of themselves. But as soon as they get together in the aggregate, and they do start to build up to a lot of money.
Yes, they do. They do. And if you're lucky enough to pay down your credit card and you still want to keep up these subscriptions, pay them before the bill comes.
Yes, you can definitely pay subscriptions. Sometimes a year in advance gives you a benefit, a financial benefit. You can often get discounts. You might also call up those creditors and ask them, if you pay them in full, would they offer you a discount for paying in full? That sometimes is the case with insurance. It's sometimes the case with certain creditors that are offering you specific services. They don't necessarily want to lose you as a customer either. So if your contract is expiring, use that as an opportunity to renegotiate some of the terms and get some lowered rates with maybe more services. Nobody says you shouldn't have these services. They're wonderful and they're parts of your life, but you can certainly negotiate them so that it fits in your budget.
Yes, and I want to talk about negotiating with credit cards in just a second. I've got 2 more questions for you, Leslie. What do you think should be markers of time for people to make sure that financially they are keeping on track week after week, month after month, so that when they get to December 2021, they feel like, you know what, I had a good solid year?
So there's an accountability piece to that. So if you find that you generally yourself don't stick to these resolutions long term, my recommendation is either get a financial buddy, somebody you trust, somebody that you love and cares about you, to help you stay on track, and you have regular meetings. Set it up so that you have a meeting about how you're doing. Look for apps and other online tools that help you stay on track and give you notifications. So they send you alerts. They'll tell you about minimum balances. They'll help you pay the bills. And that definitely keeps you in line and accountable to yourself. It's super hard to do so, and I understand that, especially as like the new year starts off slow and then life gets busy and you get caught up, so it's hard to keep up. But these are great ways to keep up with a buddy or with an app.
Yes, accountability. That's what they say about fitness as well. You got to have a fitness buddy because you need to be accountable that you're going to the gym when you're supposed to go. Okay,
you
last
need
question.
Encouragement.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Positive reinforcement. And lastly, negotiating with credit cards. How easy, difficult is it to just get on the phone with your credit card companies and say, look I've been paying minimum payment, but I've been on time. I've had this card for so many years. Give me a lower interest rate. Is that a realistic expectation?
So it is, and there's two different scenarios in negotiating with credit card companies. One is when you're current and you're making current payments, as you described, and another situation is when you're behind. So when you're current, you're asking the creditor to lower the interest rate and change some of the terms. And generally, they can do so if you've been a great customer, meaning you haven't missed any payments and you make more than the minimum payment. And there's a longevity piece, how long you've been a customer of theirs as well, and the use of the card. And then your credit score is super important in those circumstances. They are going to double check your credit score, and a high credit score over 740, you should have some great opportunities to lower the interest rate. But keep in mind, on credit cards, you generally won't see much reduction under 8-9%, and even the best of credit scores don't see that.
Wow.
Keep in mind that because of the pandemic, the creditors are reassessing their risk tolerance. So some of the tools and the financial aids that they've assisted people with in the past, from balance transfers and lowered interest rates, are less accessible and will likely in 2021 be less available unless you have fantastic credit.
740, that's a big number. Is there a window?
That is a big number. Well, 740, depending on the score that you're looking at, 740 is and above, up to 850 is considered an excellent credit score.
Sure.
I mean, then you can really have a lot of opportunity.
A little bit lower than 740.
So 720, and anything under 740 from 680 or 700 to 720, 740, you're still in a good spot and you still have opportunities. But as soon as you start dropping below 680, 640, you could find with a lowered credit score that you could lose some of those benefits.
Perfect. Leslie, thank you again. You've given us excellent advice.
Thank you so much, and happy
Words
and
to
healthy
live
New Year.
by. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
We're back after this.